All right.
We're on.
We are on. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for the first KTC webcast. Wonderful to have you all here. Hello, I'm Jeremy Banas from the KTC team, and I'll be your MC for this event. Our presenters today are George Avari and Peter Ganane, who founded Oriel Landscaping in 1986. Under their guidance, this company has become one of the leading landscape firms in the Greater Toronto area. George and Peter started mentoring others in the landscape trades over 15 years ago, and Knowledge Tree Consulting was founded with the goal of helping landscaping and other green trade companies improve their business. We have a fantastic turnout for this event. I'm sure that more will be streaming in over the next 5 to 10 minutes, but we've already got a good number of folks on the call, which is fantastic, including some with excellent art skills that you may have seen earlier. Thank you all for coming, and welcome to the Start Strong webcast, brought to you by Knowledge Tree Consulting in partnership with our amazing sponsors, Banas, Connon Nurseries, and the How to Hardscape podcast. Banas is a trusted leader in premium natural stone products and offers a comprehensive range of sandstone, limestone, granite, and travertine for all your landscaping needs. You can check them out at banasstone.com. Connon Nurseries farms over 400 acres in Waterdown, Ontario, and produces over 2,500 varieties of trees, shrubs, and perennials. And you can learn more about their trade professional pricing program at connon.ca. And finally, the How to Hardscape podcast, which is hosted by Mike Pletz, offers weekly podcasts on topics that include installation tips and techniques to increase your efficiency and reduce mistakes, and business strategies to help improve your bottom line. You can find them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You'll hear a little bit more from each of our generous sponsors later in the event. Now, a few housekeeping details. We will be muting all participants before we start the meeting. The presentations by George and Peter will each last approximately 30 minutes and will include time at the end of each presentation for Q&A. Please submit questions via the chat function, and we will do our best to answer them during the webcast and also during the Q&A at the end of the webcast. Now, over to George and Peter.
Hello, everybody. I'm so grateful that you've come to join us today.
Thanks, Jeremy. It is exciting. George and I do like sharing our experience and our knowledge, and this year seems to be another especially challenging environment for us to run our businesses. So hopefully this opportunity for us to share what we have learned over the years is going to help all of you have a strong start to your 2025. So we're happy to do this, and away
we go.
Away we go.
Okay. Hey, thank you, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jake. I'm the architectural sales rep for Banas Stones, and I'm pretty happy to have the opportunity to speak with everyone today about a very good company I'm very proud to work for. So as you may know, Banas Stones has been offering high-end materials for the past 20 years. We are constantly innovating to meet the market needs and demands. Some of the products introduced into our elaborate collection of materials include rebated coping, oversized stocks, oversized slabs, large stock options to fulfill the requests and needs for all of our clients. I do want to mention Europe. Europe technology and hardscaping is far more advanced than what we have here, and Banas has realized that. So what we're doing is we have a very advanced plan in place over the next 4 to 5 years, and we're looking to catch up to speed and achieve the same quality and craftsmanship that Europe provides their customers overseas. We're definitely slowly looking to revolutionize the landscaping industry. So a new item that we've introduced in 2024, it's a website called Lightbeans. So essentially Lightbeans has scanned all of our porcelain tiles and natural stone, and they offer a free download. So you can see here on the screen, there's SketchUp, Revit, 3D Max, Chief Architect, SoftPlan, and many more programs that you can use. So when you're a landscaper, designer, and you're working on a design, this is a very handy tool. You can implement all of our natural stone and porcelain into that design so that when you're working with the client, it's super easy to swap out different stone textures and just show the client what we have to offer. So as you can see here, this is actually a plan that I designed and worked on, and we did a carbon black patio. So you can see how it kind of shows up there. And I'd be happy to answer any questions after the presentation and even in the future to assist you on this program. Another 2024 achievement is that we are slowly introducing a new fleet of machinery to allow shorter turnaround times and precision cuts. So machines include water jet, CNC, laser engraving, sandblasting, flaming, and much more to come to our Toronto facility. Now, in 2025, we've had an overwhelming successful response, positive response going into this season, and we really wanted to put our capabilities into full force. So because of that, we are now introducing a custom in-house fabrication facility in Toronto, located in Bolton to be exact, and we can offer very quick turnaround times for all your needs. So as an example, we can do bullnose, L-shaped coping. We can do plenty of different logos as well, custom plaques, engraving. We can do sinkholes. There's plenty, that the sky's the limit essentially with Banas. And we really want to educate everyone in the industry that we're able to do this custom fabrication. So another great benefit that, you know what, I'll go back quickly, guys. I will show you a quick video. So essentially here you can see in the top, this is a slab that we have and we're able to cut sinkholes. So you can see how much time this will save a contractor from, you know, getting a saw and drilling it themselves. Something that we'll do in-house, we'll do it for you, and it's really going to make everyone's life easier. So you can see here, very quick, very precise cuts that we offer. And it's pretty powerful. You definitely don't want to get your finger caught in that water jet. That's for sure. Now, another video I'll show, another technology is engraving. So essentially it's an engraving machine, gets a laser and it cuts into our stone or porcelain. And you'll see a great company that we've put on this Coda Black plaque. So pop up in a second. So yeah, it gives you a great example. Banas porcelain, right in the plaque there. It's something that we're looking to give out and provide people. So if you do have any questions about this, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to assist you. Another new item for 2025. So we're very proud of this new program that we are also offering. Again, just continuing to revolutionize the industry. Custom pools. Why not have a cool shaped pool? We can do kidney beans, any type of swirl that you want. And the challenging thing about designing these pools is obviously the coping. So what Banas will do is we will send a Banas rep out to the site, work with the architect, and we will actually be able to trace the whole design and cut the coping perfectly to your job. So this will definitely save everyone lots of time. It'll be very efficient, quicker turnaround times for all of you contractors listening today. We've had a few jobs already that people have inquired about, and we're working on them actively to provide them a solution. So again, after the call, I'd be happy to discuss further with you this new custom pool coping in-house project. Another new item for 2025, as you can see, lots is new here at Banas. We're constantly innovating. We do have 96-foot coping sizes. That comes in all of our colors. They're 8 feet length. And this is definitely, like, these are going to be statement pieces, right? When you install them in a pool, clients can be very happy about, you know, a long continuous slab of coping. One other thing is we are offering a complimentary drip edge. So this is really going to help in the longevity of the designs, especially when you're building a staircase with their coping. The water will obviously seep through, drip down appropriately, and it won't cause any sort of deterioration in the grout over time. So this is something, again, complimentary we're doing for all of our contractors, and we're happy to provide you with this solution. So, hey, thank you everyone for listening. Jeremy, George, Peter, everyone else on the call, all the KTC members, we really thank you for your time today. And yeah, any questions, I'd be happy to elaborate further. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, I will give the screen back to you. I think I can Where is it here? Share.
We're just gonna sort out a few
Sure.
things and we'll get this going.
Yeah. Let me see.
Okay, you can just mute yourself.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to be speaking about people, process, and profit, or people, culture, process, as the case may be. Those lead to profit. What was really cool to see actually was Banas has been listening to their customers, and I am pretty sure most of you don't want to cut stone around curved pools anymore. What a great way to increase the speed of your project, reduce the noise and dust for your clients, and have perfect processes giving you perfect outcomes. So thank you so much for that. I've been fortunate to work with Banas and have done a bit of consulting with them. And you know, it's amazing to see companies just get better and better every year. I think one of Banas's first customers. So I'm so grateful to be associated with them. So learning from our mistakes. Everyone has obviously made some mistakes, and you can see here this bobcat flipped over. Not great. And at the time, I think we probably thought it was funny. You see, I'm not wearing a shirt there. I was a little bit lighter back in the day than I am now. But the fact of the matter is that safety actually is the #1 priority. And if I was to start again, that's the first thing that I would dial in. In terms of making money, going out of business because you died is probably not a good start. So increasing prices, that's the first thing that we did. Most landscapers are underpricing their work, and the reason is either they don't know why or because they're afraid to raise their prices. So Peter and I had been working probably for about 7 or 8 years, just killing ourselves, making less than minimum wage back in the day. I think we were sub $3 an hour, something like that. And I decided I was going to put myself out of business by raising my prices until no one hired me. Well, lo and behold, we did that, and we actually made something like a $250,000 profit the next year, just by changing nothing, just raising our prices. And then we were silly enough to take that money and buy 2 trucks for cash. So the next year we almost went out of business on cash flow. So this is not what we want you to do. We want you to learn from our mistakes and then get ahead. The other thing we realized is if we put ourselves on payroll and we created that discipline, so we were no longer subsidizing the business, we were employees of the business that we happened to own, we were shareholders in, that created pressure for us to start doing things right. Otherwise, we can just wait, and you know, things will get better. So that old gambling adage, you know, you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You also have to take your money off the table, and that means paying yourself first. So we also realized that if we tried to get ahead by taking advantage of people and not paying them enough, you know, one of our clients essentially had a great line, which is if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and very, very wealthy family. So that sort of sunk in. We started to invest in knowledge. So we realized we didn't know anything. We were literally flying by the seat of our pants. And so clearly, what was the difference between us and other successful companies? It was knowledge. It wasn't necessarily bobcats or anything else. It was about like, what do we do? When do we do it? How do we do it? And we had to learn that. And there's better ways than learning the hard way. So we became decisive. There is enormous delay in people's decision making. And so I have a rule. If it doesn't put you out of business, you can try it. And that's pretty comforting. So I'd rather make a mistake and learn and not go out of business than just not make decisions and then go out of business. And then we also started to pay to find talent. So you're marketing for people, you're also marketing for clients. They're not mutually exclusive. It's the same thing. So talent makes companies. We fired mediocrity. So I essentially got to the point where it was so difficult working with difficult people that I decided to change the outcomes by changing the people. We created repeatable systems. that people could follow and thrive in and make it fun at work instead of painful. And we brought the right equipment. So that's actually the easiest way to improve your company, is to buy the right equipment. Equipment are cheaper than people. And last but not least, we built a great yard that was the foundation of our business infrastructure and our logistics. So we became more efficient as a function of making these changes. So implement a safety training program. We've done that, and this doesn't happen anymore. So that is a bit of a shameful photo. It's the truth, though, and I think the truth is where credibility is built. So our first smart hires, we hired Margie, the designer. She was our actual office manager. She did the books, and great designer, okay at books, difficult to do both at the same time. And so one day I decided that I was going to take a accounting course, and there was this teacher, Indy, and Indy was incredible. And here I am taking this. I took accounting at university and in high school. I was not good at it. I certainly didn't like it. And I realized, wow, what if I could hire this person? So I approached Indy and I said, hey, can you work for us? And she said to me, well, you can't afford me. And I said, well, how much are you charging? She said, $25 an hour. I said, you're hired. And the reason I did that was A, I took a chance. B, I knew that she was 5 times better than me and 5 times faster. So, and I needed that service. So I just figured out how to build it into my cost. It was one of the best things we ever did. And that allowed us to essentially focus on things like Canada Blooms and Landscape Ontario. I was chapter of the Toronto, president of the Toronto chapter. Peter was involved in the in Canada Blooms committee, as well as the contractors group. And those networks helped us a ton. And we didn't have to worry about the books. We didn't have to worry about getting paid. We didn't have to worry about getting the invoices out, paying the taxes on time. Someone else took care of that. So that's one of the first things that I would focus on. And that also allowed us to focus on what we really love to do, which is create great landscapes. So we could focus on becoming better designers, better at hiring better people, better at doing better work. And again, the foundation of that is money management. So we became book smart, we designed great, and then we started to get lucky. You'll notice the 4-leaf clover is the symbol of our luck. And definitely there was luck. There's always luck. And there's actually 4 types of luck. So the first type of luck is blind luck. So, Peter bumped into me. I don't know if you call that lucky. We're still partners today after 40 years, and we've learned a lot from each other. There is trial and error. We tried a bunch of things. There's persistence. We never gave up. And then there's what's called magnetic luck, when things just start to happen in a good way for you. And it's the sum of all those things that's true. You have to take advantage of your luck, though. So my next lucky hire was Joseph. So Joseph's been with us now for 30 years, and he's one of our foremen. The guy's work is unreal. Worst interview ever until he showed me his work. And he was very negative. He came from a difficult place. And when I saw his pictures and I heard his story, I said, this is my guy. So his story was an immigrant from Poland, essentially came here with nothing, and was trying to hustle cars and wasn't working very successfully, trying to import and export cars from Canada to Europe. And his boss before him was just horrible. So he would drop him off with no wheelbarrow and expect him to build these projects, like no tools, nothing, and come back 3 or 4 days later. When I saw what this guy could do without proper tools, I realized this person is crafty, and this person is diligent and hardworking and highly intelligent. And yes, he was bitter, and justifiably so. So I got lucky. I found this person, and if he wouldn't have shown me those pictures worth 1,000 words, I wouldn't have hired him. And if I wouldn't have heard his story, I wouldn't have hired him. So one of the process things that we do when we hire people is, I want to hear, tell me your story. If it's a hard story and you overcame it, I'm way more likely to hire you. So what happened? We had one great crew. We had no headaches. We had amazing work, and we had high productivity, and I wasn't there. And we had thrilled clients. So this person was passionate about the work, and what a breath of fresh air. So design great work, get lucky. So a lot of us don't put a lot of effort into design. We've never studied design, and we try and get lucky with poor design. You have to get great designers. We had Margie, who was a great designer. That helped us a ton. And then we had Joe, who implemented great designs. So 1 + 2 = 5. And that's the process that I would recommend to you highly, is get that design down. It's the foundation. It's the plan, ironically, for your landscapes. And of course, you're going to need a plan for your business as well. A great plan makes life so much easier. So branding and images. So we realized very quickly that we're doing this great work, but we're not telling anybody. And so how do we do that? Well, it was truck signs and lawn signs and going to shows like Canada Blooms, where other architects and landscapers would come and see our work. It was fantastic. It was exhausting. It was expensive. It was absolutely necessary at the beginning. And I think a lot of us are relying on passive marketing. I think it's really important to actually get out there and press the flesh, meet people. One of the things we've done in our consulting business, ironically, is we will host a hole on a golf event, and we get to meet people because they're waiting to tee off because the course is backed up. And it's a great opportunity to network. Where would they find us otherwise? Where would they get to talk to us and be relaxed? So it's really important to find those places. So brand magnetism, we started doing better work. Then the architects started noticing us, and the dominoes started to fall. We started to get luckier. So we're trying to build a great brand that aligns our vision. And this revealed the team members who were not up to the challenge. So at the end of the day, if we're not rowing the same direction with the same effort, it's going to be very tiring. And you start to recognize who's with me and who's not. So tell everyone how amazing you are. And that's through pictures. That's through evangelists, other people who tell people how great you are. It's a great way to really get it out there that, you know, these people are all there. So the bad hires. So we often used to hire based on talent, and man, that was a big mistake. We had bullies. We had people that were late, unproductive, insubordinate, poor attitudes, poor cultural fits. That's my job. I don't do that. I only want to do this. We don't tolerate those people anymore. As a matter of fact, they don't even make it in the door. And so we've got some great processes on the HR front to screen out people at the beginning by asking the right questions. One of our pre-interview questionnaires is just such a powerful tool to screen out the weeds from the flowers. So you want reliable, not selfish players. You need team players, people that are intrinsically motivated, not extrinsically motivated. And you need to make sure you take care of them. Substance abusers, drugs, alcohol, even smoking. We've been around 40 years. If people smoke, eventually their productivity goes downhill. It's a natural consequence of that. And so we encourage the staff that do smoke to stop smoking. And that's part of the culture, right? How are we going to help you be better for yourself and for our company? And then I had the big purge. Now, this is kind of sad. It was inspired by Donald Trump when The Apprentice came on. I was so frustrated with my staff. I literally fired half my staff in 1 year. And, I learned a lot from that. And I thought I was successful doing it. What it was actually a picture of how poor a leader I was. The fact that I had to do that meant that I was the absolute worst leader. And, it gets to be fun to do a bit of firing for sure. And then you realize, like, why did I get here? And so it was unnecessary. So we now hire for attitude and aptitude, and we are not going to the shiny object of talent. We want character. So there has to be a good cultural fit for the company. We like to have a democratic leadership style where we include people. If someone's an autocrat, they won't fit our culture. And no matter how talented they are, it's absolutely not worth having them on the team. Ironically, you can use different strategies and tactics, like you could subcontract somebody who has those attributes that's isolated, but to have them in your team is a big mistake. It will cost you enormous amounts of grief and HR issues. So obviously we want to delete the unproductive bullies that are late and insubordinate. So we hired our first consultant. We spent $35,000 took 2 weeks, about 25 years ago. It's a long time. And we learned what a disaster we were. So essentially, if you look at a company, you look at their work, you go, wow, what an amazing company. You don't get to look under the hood. We got a good look under the hood, and it was ugly. And so we realized we got to fix a lot of things. One of the things they did is they actually asked our employees what they thought of us and what they thought of our business and our processes. And it wasn't pretty. That was quite revealing. It was an expensive process. I think it was a necessary process. And we were naive. We didn't know what we didn't know. So it was a huge learning opportunity. I think, in hindsight, it actually was cheap, although it didn't actually change our business. We never really got process solutions. We just found out what was wrong. So one of the things that we want to do when we help people is we want to focus on not only telling them what's wrong, but giving them the tool to solve the problem. So process is huge. And so, again, it's so important to get experts in your business. Like, you're supposed to be an expert to your clients, and they're hiring experts and they're paying a premium for it. The opposite is true. You also need to hire experts to get better. So great work, poor process. So we started doing great work, poor communication, dropping the ball. At least the invoicing was going well, and we're collecting money. Everything in between was a disaster. Our morning rollouts, forgotten tools, on goes the litany of issues. And we started focusing on trying to solve that. The problem was we couldn't get things to stick. We would do things and someone would undermine it. And it was essentially like chasing cats and trying to herd cats. So we grew blindly with no plan. We really had horrible administration. The information flows were terrible. We had so many near-death encounters where, like, man, I don't know if I'm going to make payroll next week. And ironically, we did survive and got better. That journey is not what's going to be the norm, hopefully, for most of you, because you're going to avoid the mistakes that we made. In hindsight, it really didn't need to be that difficult. We didn't know, and that ignorance cost us. So you essentially want to map with an expert's help. Map where you're going, what you're doing, what your next steps are, who you're doing it with, and you can actually create a plan that you can follow and execute. So strategic planning is something that maybe 1% of businesses do. In Oriel, we have a annual strategic plan. It's based on an agenda, and we bang it out in about 4 or 5 hours. It used to take us 2 or 3 days. So that's an improvement in process. It makes a huge difference in how well our company operates. So Kaizen was our second consultant, the introduction to Kaizen, Jim Palouche. And it's the philosophy of continual improvement. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It is one of the biggest game-changing things that you can implement in your business to get the results that you want. And essentially, if you do this, your culture will improve, your processes will improve, your people will improve, and your work will be way less stressful. So I'm working on a book called Worry Free Business, and quick plug here, now I've got to do it. And it's all founded on Kaizen, this philosophy of continual improvement. I can buy into that. If I make one iterative improvement today, it's going to have a cumulative effect, and over time, I'm going to have fewer problems. But you have to start. So Kaizen, learning about Kaizen is magic. So you have to adopt the right philosophy. So the next piece in the puzzle is the management team. So as you grow, you're going to need managers. And you may realize that you're actually not a great manager. And when you find them, it's incredible. It is such a relief. You've got great processes and great managers. So we've got Sean and Adrian who lead the operations and the general management of our business. They are game changers. We just don't have to worry anymore. If you can get people like this, you got to hold on to them. And man, you got to pay them well, because if you don't, they're going to go somewhere else or do something else. So peace of mind. Great people offer peace of mind. So culture, building an amazing team. So when we started to introduce Kaizen, we had huge resistance. People are resistant to change. So for all of you that are on this podcast or this webinar, webcast, you should cross your arms right now, just for fun. Cross your arms. Now try crossing the other way. So for most of you, it was an uncomfortable experience. So we are literally biologically habituated to resist change. We do things the way we've always done them. Sometimes they're bad habits. Sometimes they're habits that should be improved. However, if we can change the habits to good habits, we're going to have great outcomes. And the trick is to get everybody to recognize that, you know what, maybe I got to cross my arm the other way. So bad behavior decreased as we started implementing Kaizen and people started believing in the process. We certainly had some leadership work to do because there's a big difference between a boss and a leader. And that is something that takes time to recognize ourselves. And the carrot is generally better than the stick. We try not to use the stick at all. I think the stick is just the last kick out the door when you get fired. And that's happening less and less over time as we're getting better and better at screening people and building better people and giving them better processes and being better leaders. Oftentimes when you fire someone, it's actually your own fault. And the reason is you had poor processes and you didn't have any standards. So accumulate trust in leadership, systems, and people, and then you have a chance at creating a great culture. So this is an experience that I had with a client about communication. And on the left is typical communication. I command, I demand, I tell. And then the broken chain reaction happens. Some people are left out. And this is the foundation of terrible culture. The next one is where we have a meeting once a week and we have an agenda and we have everybody that needs to be there. We typically do it at lunch and we dial in methodically what we need to cover. We have a learning moment at the end and we do this over and over again. This was the magic for our company to run without us. This is absolutely necessary for every company. It requires effort, work, a commitment to timing to make this happen. And if you do that, your business can change and it will change. So all the companies that we've helped implement this, it literally is game changing. You know, you hear about silver bullets. Yeah, this is the silver bullet. This is actually the magic to growing your business, because in those meetings, everybody learns from everybody. In those meetings, each person can run the meeting, so they become leaders in the meetings. There's timelines. It's just amazing. We always do them at lunch because you should be busy doing your own stuff in the morning and then learning, collaborating, and then solving problems and going into a great work state afterwards. So the team went from me to we, and we all learned to prioritize together. So conflict essentially evaporates. So this is the transition magic. So the next part is, well, how fast can I get better? Well, we talked about Kaizen, which is iterative improvements. There's also eliminating waste, which is part of Kaizen. And so as you eliminate waste, there's more opportunity. Generally, what we like to do is we like to reward the staff who've been great and have helped us to get to where we are first. And as we eliminate waste, we reward the staff. They become stickier. We start investing in process. We invest in equipment. So I look at equipment and people the same. They're essentially mechanical employees. We got to give the people the best tools. And then slowly but surely, we start to make a profit. And then the profit grows, the profit compounds, and everything gets better. It takes 5 years. There are steps that you need to take along the way to achieve this graph. It's fun to do. You have to be patient. Rome wasn't built in one day, is the old adage. So it's everyone's 5-year journey. I've yet to see someone do this faster. So get started with KTC. So one of the things what we're trying is we're trying to earn your trust. And so for those of you that are interested, for $500, we'll spend 3 hours with you. We'll show you what great process looks like in terms of learning about your business and finding out what your next opportunities are and solving some of your immediate issues. It's going to be fantastic for you. And the other cool thing about this is that you're going to get a taste of what consulting looks like. So for those of you that haven't taken the leap of faith, and I sort of look at, how am I going to get better? Well, I've got 5 steps, actually. The first thing is I have to be aware of the possibilities. So that solves the ignorance issue. I have to understand it, so it has to make sense to me. I have to accept that it's true. And then I have to take a leap of faith. So I actually have to put my money down and invest in something. And then I have to actualize it. So for those of you that have never had consulting before, this would be a fun opportunity. We have 10 spots available in Q2. And I know it's your busy period. It's discounted. Our typical rates are much higher. So if you'd like to take advantage of this, certainly reach out to us and we can set that up for you. And a word from our sponsor.
All right, so we'll have a word from our sponsor, Connon Nurseries. So Terry Vandercook will speak.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Peter, George, and Jeremy, for the invitation to your Start Strong event. It's an honor to be here to support the educational efforts of our industry colleagues, Peter and George, and also to say hello to all of you. It's so great that events like this exist, as we can never stop learning, never stop improving and working on our businesses. We're like canoers paddling upstream. And if we stop working to move forward, we actually start to go backwards and fall behind. The scary thing is that if we take the foot off the pedal, sometimes we don't even realize that we're falling behind in our efforts to improve our position in the marketplace. If we're not studying our businesses daily and keeping our eyes up to see what's happening around us, our customers might see better things elsewhere. Your competitors might be providing their clients and maybe their staff a better experience. So congratulations on being here today. Thanks, guys, for allowing me to say a few words about what's happening at Connon Nurseries. And I'll be super short because you're waiting on the next session. A lot of things are happening here for us in 2025, and we hope that these will be great experiences for all of you as well. And I'd like to highlight 3 changes, if I could. New for this year, and you may have seen some of our email correspondence to date, is that we are asking you to provide our head office with an authorized buyers list, both in our office for quoting and in our sales yards where you might be buying in person. Our checkout staff will be asking for the authorized buyer's name. So we're asking you to submit a list of names so that we can protect your account with higher security and also for the integrity of your wholesale pricing. The second thing I'd like to highlight is in a couple of weeks, we're launching a new Connon app, which will give you visibility into all our availability and pricing at each of our 9 selling locations. In this app, you'll also be able to put an order together, see your trade pricing, but you can also submit a list to receive additional discounts from the head office. Otherwise, if you just look at the pricing on there, that'll be the standard industry average wholesale pricing. And lastly, you may have just heard me say that we have 9 selling locations, which may have surprised you. You're used to probably our 3 primary sales yards in Waterdown, Newmarket, and Trenton. But this year, we're opening up a new brand called The Branch. And these will be smaller, 10,000 square foot convenient locations, much smaller than our normal sales yards. But hopefully you'll be able to find them very convenient for quick and out purchases. As we all know, we're fighting the traffic in the GTA, and it's not going to get any better. So we thought we'd put these smaller locations up as a convenience for you. The addresses can be found on our website, connon.ca, and you'll find us now in Hamilton, Ancaster, Burlington, 2 locations in Oakville, one being in the Oakville Place, which is really convenient for you for the QEW, as well as in the Colossus Center in Vaughan. We're going to be right there at the Cineplex Colossus, so hopefully that's convenient for you. And your wholesale pricing, if you're set up here at the head office, will work at any of these locations just the same. So hope you check us out. That's it for me. Thanks again, Peter and George, and I wish you the very best. Unfortunately, I can't stick around for the next one as we're getting ready for an AGM this afternoon, but congratulations on this and wish everybody a great 2025. Thank you.
That's great, Terry. Thanks for sharing that information. It's pretty exciting, and I suspect your new locations that you call small at 10,000 square feet are going to be great. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, we'll definitely look into where those are and how those can help our efficiency in terms of reducing wasted travel.
Exactly.
And thank you, George, for your presentation. There were a number of things that you touched on during your presentation that I'm going to reinforce. specifically about our sales process and specifically about how that process will make us better at achieving sales in 2025 when things might appear a little more tenuous. So the words I'm going to spend most of my time talking about are trust, which you touched on a little bit, communication, which I think is critical for sales as it is for internal communication in the business, like you touched on, and continual improvement. I think our sales process is constantly evolving. So what I give you today will expire soon, maybe at the end of this season. We'll have to do this again next year. But it is that attention to what is working and what isn't working that keeps us ahead of those changes in our economy and in our customers' communities. So I'm going to show a short video. Some of you might have seen it. It was at the awards ceremony this past year at Landscape Ontario. And it is it's a section of the video where I'm going to show you what happy customers look like. This video was taken a year after we completed the project. So to have customers that are so happy with the process and so happy with the product that they're willing to preach publicly long after the job is finished is a real testament to a successful process. And this is the type of customer we're always looking for, and this is the type of project process that we're always trying to achieve. So I'm going to jump into that video now.
I'm delighted to present this year's KC Van Meers Award to Oriole Landscaping for Canadian Shield Field. Come on up. Congratulations.
I think it just has a magical spirit for some reason. And I remember even the architect, when we did our renovation for the house, was like, there's just something secret garden feeling about this property. So it just has that kind of like core. And I think that Oriole and the landscape architects just made that come to life.
And it wasn't in our intention when we got into this project, like we want to have an award-winning garden, or we wanted it to be perfect for our family.
Yeah, and I guess it makes us really excited that everyone came together this way to work on this. Yeah.
The industry has changed so much. I've been doing this now for almost 40 years. I love what I do. I love being able to make a change to a garden and see how it looks. And if my legacy is that I spread that passion for the enjoyment of the process and the product, then I'd say that's a win. That's great. And yeah, Eli and Chloe were great customers to work with. The job didn't go perfectly. There's always something that comes up on the job that's a surprise. There's always something that is a challenge. And one of the things that we learned early on is how you respond to those challenges represents your brand more than your advertising, than your Instagram page, than your brochures or a tagline on your business. And the customers, that experience of the process, I don't think customers expect it to be perfect. And that experience of how we work through some of those questions and challenges is what leaves that lasting impression with the client, that feeling. And then it excites them. They obviously still love their yard. And so one of the words George touched on was trust. And trust, I think, is one of the most important pieces of a customer relationship. In order to make the sale, trust is important. And in order to make sure that the job goes smoothly, trust is important. So communication, exactly the same as the issues you have within your company, communicating with staff, communicating with suppliers, communicating with the customer is the key to building that trust, being responsive. So, and the primary job when you're communicating with your customer is to listen. Communication isn't about talking as much as it is about listening. hearing your customer. They want to be heard. They want to know that you understand the issue, and following up on responding to those issues is the action that proves that you have heard them. So you ask questions about your client, what's motivating them, and then make a connection with them. So my technique is to make sure that I ask at least 2 questions before providing a solution or a recommendation for the client, just to make sure I've drilled down to the heart of the issue that they're trying to find. Only then do I bring out pictures of work that we've done or examples of these solutions. Once I've established that I've heard them and I know what they're asking for, then I bring forward examples of past work and prove that we have competence, and I can show that we have consistency, that we are meeting with customers year after year, where, we've been lucky enough to win some awards, so that we have consistency in that quality of product that we have. So, and then another word that George used quite a bit was the luck that we experienced while growing our business. And another way to think about luck is opportunity meeting preparedness. So opportunities are coming along all the time, and they're really only lucky if you can take advantage of them. And you can only take advantage of them if you're prepared. So being prepared means that you have a process in place to respond to those opportunities. And there's going to be opportunities for things, we've had a number of projects, number of staff, a number of opportunities, contacts that were a little bit beyond what we had done in the past. So we were reaching and making sure that we had the systems in place that we could take on a job that's a little bit bigger than we've ever done before, or a little more complicated, or had a skill set that was something that we hadn't been involved in before. But we were prepared in how we manage sub-trades, for example. So we could bring in a sub-trade that we'd never work with and make sure that that job is successful. And that's where we made those steps to grow, especially during our major growth period in the the mid 90s to the early 2000s. In the beginning, George touched on this a little bit also. We started out hustling. We were just working, we were selling, we did everything, and it was hard work. And for some of you that are new to owning a business, it feels like you're not making a lot of traction sometimes, but it's those lessons that you learn early on. It's that extra effort that you put in. Jobs aren't falling in your lap because you don't have a reputation yet. So we were out, literally knocking on doors at the very beginning to introduce ourselves to customers and to get access to opportunities. We made a lot of mistakes in terms of sales, specifically taking on jobs that are really far away from our home base. And we said yes to everything for a long time, just because we were scared. We were scared we wouldn't have enough work. Or we saw a shiny object and it was, it sounded like a great job. And, they didn't always turn out to be great. And, but we learned pretty early on that if you take a job that's too far away, you're going to regret it later. You're in the car driving, trying to manage a job that's remote is very, very difficult, very expensive. And if you do end up traveling, you have to charge for it. And we didn't know how to charge for anything back then, especially traveling. We had some bad clients. So a lot of our processes are developed in response to bad situations. We had clients that didn't want to pay. So improving our payment terms as part of our contract was something that we developed in response to that. Making sure that we had qualifiers for lumber, for example. You build a deck and there's going to be some hairline cracking as the wood, moves and shrinks and dries and goes through its normal life cycle. And we had clients that insisted that we replace deck boards because there's a tiny hairline crack in it. And some of these things are impossible. There's sooner or later the wood's going to move and do its natural thing. So we had to put qualifiers in our contracts about what is reasonable for lumber as it ages. And there is a limit. Obviously, if it's a huge split, we will replace it. But we had to define that in our contract. And we got burned by a lot of jobs not having those expectations clear in our contracts. So if you want to have a happy client, prepare them, prepare their expectations, be realistic, be fair, and they're generally they've been good with it, as a result. So what we focus on in our sales process. So again, trust. I'm going to talk a lot about trust because that's something that you have to work on throughout the process. And why is that the most important thing? Well, it's a lot of money, right? Your clients are spending a lot of money. You're in their personal space. You're on their property. If you're working for a contractor, or if you're on a commercial property, there's legal implications, there's scheduling implications, there's, everybody's working on a budget. Do they trust that you will be able to fulfill those expectations that you've laid out in your proposal, in your agreements? And in order to get Eli and Chloe, as an example, to get them into that position where I would define them as a raving fan, to get them into that position, you have to manage those expectations. You have to build some trust that you'll fulfill those promises. You have to respond to them and communicate with them regularly. And you have to follow up with them. So in terms of Eli and Chloe, for example, our goal on that job, as we're building the job, is not to worry about whether it's cheaper for us to rush something or to get something delivered differently or to manage the job differently. Our goal was to work toward a repeat customer. So if your perspective on a job when you're on it is, how do I make this client happy so that we're talking about the next project or a referral for the job, that has much more value in the long run than trying to do something on the quick and dirty to get through the job and make an extra dollar on the job, in our experience. And those branches that, customer connections, where a customer leads us to a customer, leads us to a customer. Some of those branches are, 30 years old. Some of those repeat customers, we have customers that we started working with back in the 90s, and we have worked on their properties periodically for the last 30 years. So those are the things that are paying dividends in the long run. And the reason they keep coming back to us is they know that our focus is on quality and service. And they will pay extra to get that quality and that service. And we have to be prepared to sacrifice a dollar if it means achieving those quality and service goals that are our priority, to build a repeat customer and develop raving fans. Okay, that was horrible. And we did that on purpose. So the point of those circles, the waiting circle, is so that you have a sense that the computer isn't frozen, but there is uncertainty in what you're expecting. Uncertainty is the worst thing that you can leave with your client. So uncertainty means, you've met with them to do a walkthrough with the property, and you say, I'll get back to you with a proposal, and hopefully we can do the job. And you disappear, and then a week goes by, and then 2 weeks goes by, and you're busy because it's the spring, and you're going to get around to it, and you just haven't had a chance to get to it. And that can kill a job. During that period where you're not talking to the client, they're going to fill in that blank, and they're going to perhaps call another contractor to say, well, I'm not sure if they're coming back to me. I'm not sure if they can follow through. So I will in our process, we make sure that we connect with our clients at least once a week. So if you're going to have a proposal or a quote for your client, and it's going to take you 2 weeks to present it, and there's a delay, then reach out to them after a week and say, hey, I'm working on your quote, and I have a question about, the colors of a flower. I'm thinking of including this in your thing. Do you want me to add a little kitchen area or space for a barbecue? Just a little interaction so that they know you're thinking of them, you're working on them. It's like that circle or a timer or something, so they know that you're engaged, you're thinking of them, you're working on their project, and that's going to keep them from filling in those blanks. And we do the same thing during construction. So during construction, our crews send us a daily progress report through Site Docs. We know what's happening on every job every day. They send it to us in a timely fashion, so that if there's any information we have to communicate with the customer, we can do that right away. There isn't a delay in talking about an issue that might come up on the job. And if there isn't an issue and things are going well, we will still reach out to them once a week to say, hey, this is all the stuff we got completed this week. This is what we're going to work on next week. Let me know if you have any questions. And that sense that they're getting a white glove service is huge. So let's see where we got. Yeah. So the sales, I can't see the.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, sales principles, right? So these are some of our guiding principles, and I'm going to share a few of these things that that we work on. So again, in terms of being able to build trust, the client wants to know that you're there for them. It's not about you selling a product that you have. So we're not selling, most of us are not selling cookie cutter products. So we're not there trying to hustle a sale. We're there to answer their questions. We're there to solve their problem or to answer a want. And, like a pool or a kitchen, that's a want. It's something they'd like to have. It's something, they got a new family. They like entertaining, whatever. These are things that they want. So you're selling a positive experience. You also have situations where you're solving problems. So they've got a leak in the foundation and they have to dig up the landscape. So you're having to do some re-landscaping around the building. You're regrading a area of poor drainage, replacing an old fence that's rotted out. Those types of things. People are a little less excited to fix things. It's like fixing your roof. You still have a roof. You've spent all this money and you don't get anything new. You just get it replaced. This is a little more challenging to sell, but they have to spend the money. So in one way, it's going to be a little bit easier to get a sale, but to make it exciting for them or to differentiate yourself so you can do something nice with the replacement. So what you put back in is nicer than what they had is the key to standing out and getting them excited about even something as depressing as a foundation repair. Prerequisites. So if we back up, so I've talked to you about all of our processes. If we back up and think about how we set ourselves up to achieve all of those accomplishments. George talked about purpose, people, and process, and that creates a culture in your company. And establishing a vision for your company is good for your company. It's good for your staff. They get excited. You want and you take your vision, which excites your staff. You want them to be ambassadors for your vision, and they project that in the culture and in the process to the customers. So they become ambassadors as well for sales. Define your market and develop your brand. So again, like I said, talking about going too far or doing jobs that aren't a good fit for you, defining your market and developing your brand is key so that you know which clients you're going after. And then we're going to have a screening process. We have a sales script where when we're receiving a call from a client, a call comes in, we talk to them, and we are asking them specific questions about their project to find out if we're a good fit. And I want them to say yes as much as I want them to say no. Because if they're not a good fit, I want to find out as quickly as possible. So it is direct questions. I want a yes or no. And if it's a yes, then they're excited about going to the next step because we've clarified that we are a good fit early on in that process. Build repeatable processes and systems. So that was George, and we've got that locked in now. So hire, motivated, and competent team. Again, solid now. Attract clients using a digital showroom, including an amazing and engaging website and social media. That is the new way to sell. It is the current way to sell, primarily staying in front of potential customers, but it's changing constantly. So the method that you're going to use, you have to adjust, adapt. You know, we've gone from pictures to videos, and we don't know where it's going to go next, but we have to be nimble and agile, and next year we're going to have perhaps some new advice for you. Make the client experience enjoyable. So again, it's about listening to them and then responding to them in a timely manner. And for most of your staff, that's 90% of it. The other 10% is, housekeeping stuff, like keeping your job site neat and tidy so they have access to their house without tracking mud into the house, keeping your neighbor's properties neat and tidy, or not blocking the neighbor's driveway. Those types of things are those experiences that are maybe soft selling tools that you can use. But those are the kinds of things that you have to train your staff. And that comes back to culture and making sure that your staff project that positive culture and customer-centered focus. So happy clients lead to referrals and repeat business. No questions there. Relationships with evangelists lead to even more referrals. So what are evangelists for our business? These are people like landscape architects. This job, Eli and Chloe, they didn't come directly to Oriel. They came through a landscape architect. So Plant Architects designed that project. They recommended Oriel and a couple other contractors, but they were pretty confident that Oriel was going to be a good fit. They pushed Oriel on our behalf. So an evangelist can give credibility to your brand and reassurance to the customer. And evangelists, George touched on some evangelists that we met through Canada Blooms, and they built a lot of our early success. So that's key. And so it's not just the customer that you're reaching out to and trying to connect with, but some of these leaders in the industry, interior designers, architects, landscape architects, suppliers. A lot of suppliers will put our name forward. And that's really helpful in terms of building confidence in the client. Before we even talk to them on the phone, they're already sold on our business. So getting awesome projects. So we say minimal competition. So that is like this job with Eli and Chloe. We did have some competition on that job, but oftentimes those evangelists will put our name forward and only our name. They encourage the customer to get quotes, but they'd say, we would recommend Oriel or, whoever, but for a specific job. And oftentimes we've quoted on projects where we're the only bidder on the job. And it makes it a lot easier, obviously, to have those conversations, and they're not scrutinizing your cost of interlock per square foot, because that's not what's important. It's making sure it's good quality work and that they're taken care of. So a high level of service. And so KTC, we have those systems. We've built them through Oriel, through trial and error, beating our head against the wall sometimes, but it's paid off. And what we've done is we've now codified a lot of those systems, and then through KTC now we're able to share those systems with other companies, and it's very rewarding for us. So most well-intentioned staff need a nudge to follow a process. So George talked on this a little bit about the culture and having good staff and not the wrong staff, but good staff want to do a good thing. So, like crossing your arms the wrong way, if you remind them which way we have to cross our arms, it'll be easy for them to follow that, and it'll become habitual if it's practiced. And we practice those processes. We practice, we encourage that culture repeatedly. We demonstrate it to each other, and that helps reinforce good habits. A working process appears to a client like a high value service. So if your process is to connect with a client every week, if your process is to clean the job site at the end of every day, if the process is to respond to warranty calls within 24 hours the next year, whatever that process is, as long as you are following that process, the client will be thrilled with the experience. And for them, that's what a high value service is. And that has actually formed part of our brand. And surprisingly, it has been a differentiator for us. How many times have you connected with a client and they say they called 5 people, but nobody else called them back? Like, that blows my mind. But that level of high value service does really differentiate us from others. So yeah, KTC has the systems. The peer groups. So I'm just going to give a little plug for peer groups. We started peer groups this week. I had our first peer group meeting with the group 1 yesterday, and it was great. We had 6 or 7 companies on the call talking about challenges and issues and best practices. We've got another one tomorrow with another group that I'm meeting with on Thursdays, and we're going to meet bi-weekly. We're actually doing it. It says $500 a month. That is after a free introductory period. We're doing free peer group meetings for the next 2 months, and just so people can, feel it out. We can work on a system for the meetings, and then we're gonna establish the price and the value for the client. We're gonna include access to other KTC events. Some of you on the call here today have been to our summer tours. This year, our summer tour is going to be at Koivik Contracting in August, and we'll provide VIP access for our peer group participants to those events. And then we're looking at perhaps a winter face-to-face as well. So, and these peer groups, some of you have been in peer groups before, so it's a great opportunity to get advice. So thanks for listening, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have, and talking to you again this spring.
Great. So now a word from our sponsor, Mike Pletz, from How to Hardscape. So Mike, Ben's going to send you a request to unmute, and we're going to mute ourselves, and you can go for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Knowledge Tree Consulting, for having me on as a sponsor. And thank you to everybody that's made their time today to be able to meet this event. I think I'm requesting share. I don't know if I can because somebody else is sharing there, but if anyone is in the chat, if you have heard of How to Hardscape, if you listen to the How to Hardscape podcast, put a yes in the chat, just because I'd love to hear that. Maybe you do listen, maybe you don't. Yes is coming in. Thank you so much. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I do want to get back to George and Peter, because they always give some awesome, valuable information. But basically, How to Hardscape is just a educational platform. We started with a actual website back in 2019. We have more than 150 articles on the website now, everything from hardscape installation to marketing and so on and so forth. Then we launched the How to Hardscape podcast back in 2019 as well, a little bit later in the year. And that is, despite it being called How to Hardscape, we have Hardscape business owners on, we have consultants, we've had George and Peter on, and we have had George on multiple other times since then. And it's a podcast to be consumable and in your ears when you're driving to a job site, when you're on the job site. So I highly recommend How to Hardscape podcast if you're looking for more business content, owning and operating a hardscape business. As well as if you just go to howtohardscape.com, all of our resources will be there. Everything from our articles to our we do have a careers page, so you can actually post your job vacancies. That's completely free there for our community. And if you are on Spotify, Apple, check out the How to Hardscape podcast just by searching it there. And if you're looking for another podcast that may not be for everyone, it's the Not Our Finest Hour podcast. It's me, myself, the landscape daddy, Chad from Natural Design Landscapes, and Paver King. And we sit down once a week, and it's more relatable content. And the feedback that we get from it is great because there's a lot of people saying, "Hey, I didn't know others were going through the same thing," and it's just great to hear other people talk about that. So I have to bring that up because of the messages that we do get on the feedback from that. And what else can I talk about here? Oh, the I Am a Hardscaper YouTube channel. That is more hardscape visual installation focused. A lot of people have actually messaged me or come up to me in person and said, "Hey, I actually use your videos to train my employees," which is humbling to hear. That has more than 500 videos on that YouTube channel at this point. So that's more myself if you would ever actually want to hear my voice even more and actually see my face. The I Am a Hardscaper YouTube channel has that. And then if you're looking for a software to dive into, we have the How to Hardscape headquarters software, everything from budgeting, estimating, job costing, time tracking, scheduling, lots of features that we're consistently building on top of. It also has our courses in there. We have 3-hour interlock installation courses, segmental retaining wall installation courses, tests at the end of each of those. We have other installation courses, and we're going to just continue to add to those. You can also create your own courses as well, think safety training videos and so on and so forth. And you can use those to train onboard employees, create some sort of system to be able to do that within your business. But it's largely a budgeting, estimating, job costing. I see names and faces in here that are actually using the software, which is great to see. Dexter himself is working on a quote right now in the software, so thank you so much there, Dexter. But that is it for me. If you do want to check out the How to Hardscape headquarters software, it is hthheadquarters.com, hthheadquarters.com. But if I could push you to anything, go check out the How to Hardscape podcast. Thank you so much, Knowledge Tree Consulting, and thank you so much for everybody that has shown that support there in the chat, the yeses all across. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, Mike, for that. So we will move on to the Q&A portion of the webcast, and this will also be good stuff. So just give me a moment while I get set up. All right, so I'm going to be asking a number of questions to George and Peter, and I'm sure they'll give us some sage advice in relation to the questions. If you do have any other questions that you'd like to ask during this portion of the call, then please do post them in the chat, and I will ask them towards the very end. So let's get started, gentlemen. So on the subject of evolution of sales strategies, what were the largest changes to your sales strategies from the early days of your business in 1986 to the present? And what changes do you see coming in the next 3 to 5 years?
I guess I'll start with that one. So I think I had the cheap mindset, which was if I'm cheaper, I'll get the work. So I always wanted to be cheap, and I myself was cheap. And a lot of people aren't cheap, actually. That's an interesting observation. So as I got older, I realized my best customers are probably 45 plus. The reason they have life experience, so they're not trying to stay at the Motel 6 to save money. They'd like to stay at a little nicer hotel, and they don't care about the price. And, you know, they don't want the beat up pickup truck in front of their house, where they're worried that the people are going to steal their stuff, after the work is done. So, you know, brand is huge. I didn't quite understand the magnitude of how important brand is. I remember back in the day, there was a company called Jurgen Partridge, and he would have signs. It was hilarious. He would have signs out that would say, coming soon. And I drive all over the place. I'm like, man, he's everywhere. He actually wasn't. He just had all his projects that were coming soon. And that increased his brand presence in an area. And that I thought was pretty unique. Now, his work was amazing. And one of the things that he did, which was pretty powerful, was all of his jobs had some insanely beautiful flowering plant. And that's when he took the photo. So, you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. This guy now is telling you I'm coming. And by the way, these projects are unbelievable. Don't you want to have flowers like that? Now, the magnolia unfortunately lasts for about 4 days. In a windstorm, you might be lucky. Without a windstorm for 6 or 7, it's still, that image just blows you away. And that's when I started to realize the power of being local, increasing that presence. You know, double down on where you're working. Don't spread yourself thin. Peter was iterating about driving all over the place just to chase work. Sometimes it's better to say no, and that's hard when you're first starting out. You're going to end up chasing things all over the place if you don't focus.
Yeah, and I think all of those lessons, I think what we learned also is that we have to be consistent. So sometimes you're really busy, but you can't change that approach to how you're selling to your clients. You have to provide that level of service consistently for it to be trustworthy. And so when times are good, you should still be responding to your clients on a regular basis. It's harder, perhaps, but that's why you have those little touch points. It might take you 3 weeks to do a quote when you're really busy, but that means you just have a couple of more touch points in between to make sure they know you're working on it. Today, you know, the next 3 to 5 years, I'm worried about the next 3 to 5 weeks. Like this spring there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So your clients might be a little harder to find. They might be a little harder to get to commit to work. And I would say those processes now are even more important. And if you have fewer customers, then you don't have to wait 3 weeks to turn a quote around. You can turn it around quickly, but making sure that you're communicating with your client regularly throughout the process. So consistency of all of those systems that we've discovered through trial and error is the key to fulfilling that brand in the client's experience.
And I'm also going to add one more thing. Back in the day, we didn't have Google Calendar or Outlook or any of those things. So when I communicate with a client, I'll say, okay, is it okay if I send you a tentative appointment? Or can we lock down a time right now for our next meeting? That's super powerful. Now they're committed to you. They're less likely to go looking around to see what's over the other side of the fence. So that consistency Peter was mentioning, about doubling down on making sure that their clients' needs are met and that you're communicating with them constantly, you can create that promise and give yourself a deadline. Same thing with a quote. The quote will be done on or before a certain date. So I always love the on or before sort of line, because then it gives me a chance. I think I can get it done for Wednesday. I'm going to give myself till Saturday at 12 noon. And if I beat the expectation, I look like a star. So now they can hardly wait for the on or before. It might come before. And if I do, I'm a superstar. If I meet the deadline, I still blow everybody else away. It's in writing. It's in their calendar. What a great way to set that expectation. And Peter mentioned uncertainty, right? So there's uncertainty that's out of our control, and there's uncertainty that's in our control. This is a great way to control the uncertainty that is in our control. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Marcus Schroeder had a couple of comments. So he said, focus on selling the experience and not the actual sale. Adjust the sales strategy with the changing market. During COVID, I was selling backyard travel destinations because my clients weren't traveling. Change the mindset when working through challenges. These challenges become growth opportunities.
Absolutely. So a couple of things, we're all different. So there might be an extrovert like me who sells. There might be an introvert like Peter who sells. Pivot, absolutely. So if there's a new trend, obviously you can follow the trend. If you can be the one who sets the trend, that's even better. one of the things that I love to do now is I go straight to the budget. Like, you know, I created this sales script. It's pretty cool. And every question that you don't want to ask is in red. Okay. So the reason we don't ask them is because it's uncomfortable. If I can get that uncomfort out of the way first, I'm going to build some trust. And, you know, my number one job as a consultant actually is to protect your money. That's my number one job. And as a landscape contractor and designer, that's my other number one job. And how I protect your money is by giving you the best value. So your project's not going to fail. It's not going to depreciate over time, right? The experience is going to be fantastic. They won't be tracking mud through your house. You know, those are things that have huge value. And so, you know, the difficult question is, okay, well, I need to find out your budget. How do I do that? And the first thing I ask typically, is there any neighbors' houses that you like? I'm like, yeah, I like this house. Okay, great. What is it that you like about that house? And then they tell you, awesome. So the next question I ask is, what are your must-haves and what are your want-to-haves? I want to respect your budget. So now I really get them to think about their must-haves and they're just their wants. So those are really clean ways to set the standard for what is it that you're prepared to spend. I'm going to find out how much you actually love that property and what are you willing to forego. Some people are willing to forego nothing. Fantastic. I found out. And so as you start to ask these questions, and it's a script, it's a repeatable script, we're going to get to what their budget is. And once that's done, we can say, okay, we understand this is what you want. These are your real needs. Why don't we work on having this project phased for you? So I'm guiding them down this process. I'm really only worrying about their money. I'll sort out the how for sure. I'm going to find out what your true what is and what your true budget is. What a great way to separate yourself from everybody else. By the way, it takes a ton of practice to sell well. You might be good at sales. When you meet somebody that's great at sales with a great product and a great service, and the person has an accent and they're fun and friendly, you're in trouble. So these are things that are in your control that you can change. And this is, I think Peter's going to be working on this in some of the peer groups to really show you guys how to dial into becoming way better salespeople. And you know, I'm sure you can think of experiences. The best analogy I have is teaching. Teaching is a type of sales. You've had good teachers and bad teachers. There's only very few teachers that you remember, and you probably remember their names. Why? Because they were great at sales. They're selling you ideas and you're buying it, and you're buying it willingly, and you're looking forward to the next sale. That is the magic.
And there's another part of that analogy that I think is really appropriate, and that is that you have to be open-minded about your process. So be willing to learn from your experience, be willing to learn from your client's feedback, and constantly adapt and evolve your process to fit your personality. So you may be different than both George and I. You might have a different technique or a different type of product or market. Finding where that sweet spot is key to success. So being open-minded about, rejection. Like, why are you losing jobs? Are you losing jobs because you're not a good fit and maybe you shouldn't have pursued it? Or are you losing jobs because you're not presenting yourself fully to the client, so they don't really see what they're missing? So being open-minded and being willing to adjust constantly is what Kaizen is, substantially.
So another thing I'm going to add to that, just on the sales thing, because it's a big deal, obviously, with the uncertainty down south. When you actually are able to criticize yourself in a constructive way, so like, what am I doing wrong? So it may go actually back down to the design stage, where your design isn't that great. So you're showing this person a napkin sketch of something, and somebody comes along with a beautiful color drawing in 3D. You're in trouble, because your trust level is going to be low. So I think the days of, like, when Peter and I whipped out graph paper and, our penmanship skills were horrible, those days are gone. So if you're not upping your game at the fundamental level, like, where am I going to fail? You're already done. So imagine you didn't show up, or you showed up late. Your design wasn't great. By the way, you're designing like everybody else. So you got cookie cutter designs. So back in the day when everybody was doing armor stone, we were doing granite boulders. We wanted to be different. Like, who did that job? Oh, that was Oriole. So you really have to examine your business at every single level. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? We have a really cool tool that we use in the consulting, which is a SWOT analysis. It's 121 questions. It takes about 2.5, 3 hours to do. Man, if you want to understand what you're doing well and what you're doing wrong, what a great way to learn.
So we have a few questions from the audience. So Mike from How to Hardscape asks, when a client initially reaches out to you, do you send them some sort of digital brochure or welcome package that explains the Oriole sales process, tells them more about the company, etc.? And if so, what does that include?
Yeah, we like to have a conversation. So we do obviously respond. We do encourage them to connect with our website and our Instagram profile. Those are the two first contact impressions that we offer to our customers. On our website, we do include an explanation of our process. So most importantly, though, we want to have that conversation with them. So to talk to them, because in a conversation, you can answer questions. You know, if it's just the website, sometimes it's hard to understand the nuance of what that process is. It's hard to understand the specifics of their project until you have a conversation. You can ask, you know, probing questions about, you know, the urgency that they have. That's often a big one. Usually customers are calling you too late in the process. Yeah. They decide, you know, a month before they need it done that they're ready to call. And I'm like, that's going to be pretty nearly impossible. But, you know, these are the types of questions we have to, you know, flesh out in a conversation. It's much harder through a brochure alone.
So one thing I've learned as I've been working with clients for years, and we circle back on these weak spots that do not get resolved. And then eventually, once you sort your urgent and important out, you circle back to your weak spots. So let's see, I got to have a great website. The images have to be unbelievable. I can't have jobs so I'm looking at like points of failure. I can't have jobs on the website where the plants are horrific. So part of strategy and planning is having your photographer booked every year, roughly the same time, 3 times a year, maybe 2 or 3 projects only. And the projects have been done 3 years ago. That means that you're going to get mature plants growing in. So your image is looking better, your storefront's looking better. So that's the first thing we see, you know, not great websites. And so that's something that's a huge issue. The other thing that you can do, one of my clients is doing this, is kind of cool. They're going the extra mile where when they set the appointment with the client, okay, we're going to come meet you at your project. Before they get there, 2 days before they get there, they get a welcome package with a wicked brochure, maybe some chocolates. And it just shows like, man, this company is next level. And if you like service, like the clients that really appreciate service, that like the nice restaurants, that, you know, you had a great waitress or a great waiter, you have a wonderful experience, they appreciate that. And the other people, you can't even compare. And if you've dropped the ball at any point, the comparison delta is so large that you're essentially done. And if they trust you and you've done work for friends or whatever, the deal is done. The deal is done. And so it's not so much about showing them the what. You already have all that stuff out there on Instagram and on your website. It really is the next steps, I think, where the magic happens.
The digital brochure really is your website. It is your storefront. Your social media is the sizzle that adds on top of that and promotes more regular engagement.
Imagine though that you have something that they get before you come that they actually want to leave on their coffee table.
Yeah.
Like it now becomes like, oh, look at these incredible projects, these beautiful images. That is next level. And yes, it might be a couple $100 per client if they're really qualified. Best money you'll ever spend.
So Marcus Schroeder says, how about sharing project pricing with the portfolio as a qualified tool, and also work through the budget with client?
100%.
Yeah, we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that where we have examples of projects where, I mean, it'll be a range, you know, but you show a picture of a completed backyard and you say, this is 250 to 500,000 to get a yard with these types of things in them. And having some pictures and some ranges like that for some projects that you've built makes it way easier to have those budget conversations, like George was talking about in those initial phone calls. You've had a look at the website. You've told me you want a pool and a kitchen and a pergola and a lounge area and a new driveway, and like you gave me a list that's $800,000 long, and you know it's 800,000 because you saw it on the website. You're not going to be shocked when I tell you that you got to put away some money for that.
So there's some cool techniques for that where what you can do is, let's say you go to the person's home, and again, standard question, are there any properties in the neighborhood you like? Okay, so that tells me what your ego is right away. And then what you can do is you can Google into the backyard if you want to, or sometimes we would take them for a little walk down the street, and we'd say, okay, this project's between $200,000 and $500,000, just generally speaking. And here's your wish list. And you want that stone wall and that beautiful hedge on the wall and that beautiful trompe l'oeil screen behind the hedge. We're looking at the higher end of things, like $500,000. What's your comfort level like? And so, yeah or no, and they're going to tell you right away. Okay, so if I was going to remove something to get you to more comfortable, what would it be? And then they tell you, right? So you lead them to their own answer to find out what their budget is. It is practice. It's an art. When you get really good at this, your closing rates are going to go up, and you'll find out if it's a cheap customer and you don't want to work with them. So you may find out, you know what? I've got 7 leads in the pipeline and you're number 6 and the other 5 are way better. And I can see you're on the lower end of the budget. You're not going to help my portfolio. That's fantastic. And then you give them the design quote and see if you can break up with them. And there's all kinds of techniques to do that as well. So how do I get them? How do I break up with them nicely? You don't want to get a nasty Google review. These are all part of the art of selling.
So Marcus Schroeder states, first impressions are key. The initial client appointment is an interview. They're interviewing you to see if you're the right fit just as much as you're interviewing them. I think, George, as you've just said, it's a crucial qualifying piece in the sales process.
Agreed.
Chad asks, where do you get those questions list to learn what I'm doing well and what I'm doing wrong? Meet with us and we'll help you find those answers. So use our Get Started form.
Just a quick question about that. So this SWOT report card that we've created is the idea is that it's actually, it tests you not just 1 year, but over 5 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It took me 1,000 hours to build this thing. It has enormous value. Therefore, I won't give it away for free. So if you're curious, reach out.
Okay, Taylor has a few questions. So does Oriel have a design questionnaire for clients to fill out?
Yeah, we do actually. It's part of our sales process. So the design is the first part of our sales process. If you don't want design, you can't work for us. The only exception to that is if you're an existing client and you want some service work, of course, we'll take care of you. We take care of all existing clients, even if it's only $500. So yes, the pre-qualification is actually the design questions. What is it that you want? What's a priority? What genre do you like? Those are all standardized. Absolutely.
Yeah, we ask for all clients to get a proper design done first, and if they don't have one already from an architect or a landscape designer, that they would require a contract with us to do the design work. So yeah, we always start with design, and that's a priority. So the design questionnaire obviously fills in those requirements for the design.
Yeah, so on that front as well, another one of those screening tools that was mentioned earlier is, are you okay with, or do you have any objections to getting a property survey? And the reason we need to do this is because A, we want the design to be accurate. B, we want to make sure the fence goes on the right side of the property line. And C, we want to make sure that the water doesn't flood your house. We absolutely need that. And so if there's an objection to that, we already know they're cheap and we don't want to work with them. So like, that's just going to be a nightmare for us. It's just setting us up for failure. So we have high expectations of ourselves. We also have minimum expectations for our clients to meet. And that's part of that screening process. You have to explain the why, like, why am I doing this? The why is as important as the how. And if you explain the wow, the wow and the how, and the why, then you can get a yes. And you really want to overcome objections. And that should be standardized in your questionnaire.
So Taylor also asks, does Oriel offer free or paid in-person consults?
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so essentially, we tell people that we charge for design immediately. And we tell them what our minimum design fee is. It was a $3,500 now. I don't even know what it is. I haven't worked it around 5 years.
Well, yeah, yeah. If you have a small, like a front yard or a small property, we can start pretty low. 3,500 is pretty low, but it is, again, we manage the expectations in what the deliverables are. But yeah, we do have a minimum design fee, but we do our initial meeting, the initial phone call, hopefully pre-qualifies the client. The initial meeting on site, we do not charge for because it's a fact-finding meeting. Different from a consultation. Like, we're not there in that initial meeting to tell them solutions for their problems. Because if you're giving them a report or giving them solutions to their problem, then yeah, you should be charging for a consultation. The initial meeting is really just a discovery for each other to find out if it's a good fit, to listen, to ask questions, to discover what they want. And then you can decide if you want to proceed with a design, and you have to have a design before you can do a quote. So we don't do quotes for free. You have to have all of these things in place before we get to the quoting stage. So we spend very little time with a customer before they get engaged as a paid customer.
Yeah, I concur.
So Sean McDonald asks, in your experience, what is the best way to dial in a client who has decision paralysis and wants to see all other possible options for a plan?
Run the other direction.
Yeah, I hate those situations. And again, trial and error. We've made that mistake before where we do 10 revisions on a drawing to try and please a customer's indecision. And that is excruciating. And it rarely finishes with a raving fan, because it's
You can't make them happy.
Yeah, there's some people that are challenged about making a decision. So yeah, generally when I'm presenting a design or a recommendation to a client, I try to limit it to 2 suggestions. I try to say, I've looked at all the options. These are the best 2 solutions for your property. They fit, the design is best, the problem that they solve is the best way to solve this problem. And I've narrowed it down to these top 2 solutions. Which one do you prefer? And it's much easier for a client to say, I prefer this one over that one, than it is to pick from a list. You give them 5 options, then there's paralysis.
So, Peter was talking earlier about, staff. Well, essentially, this client is now part of your staff. Do you want an indecisive staff member or a decisive staff member? Think about that one. Who am I hiring on my team? You're hiring this person on your team. Here's the worst part. If it's a 1-year project, oh my goodness. And this gets worse. Imagine they change their minds and they're willing to pay for it. Your staff will hate you. Oh my God, we built this beautiful wall. We have to tear it down. Like, we've had clients like that. And you're like, what is wrong with these people? It's sickening, from a whole like job satisfaction perspective. It's also sickening from an environmental perspective. It's just so frustrating. Now you're behind schedule. Like, the cascading problems of a bad client are a nightmare. It's a red flag. Like, we're talking red flag like you've never seen flashing in your life. Run.
Yeah, Peter and I had talked recently with a client of KTC about this very thing. Like, how do you set parameters around designs you deliver and work you do? And you have to have a contract for what you're going to do, and you need to set very precise parameters about what you're going to deliver and the price you're going to deliver it for. So if your, let's say, minimum design fee is $5,000, well, what does that include? Well, that's 3D color renders and a maximum of 2 revisions.
Oh, it gets
and
better.
That's what you get.
Well, it gets better though, because on top of that, you're going to say, I just want you to know, if you do change your mind, do you have any objections to paying for additional design work? After the first 2 iterations that we do and the changes, if you still haven't made up your mind, do you have any objections to paying for? It's an uncomfortable question. And I usually don't pull that one out unless I get one of these clients that I get the feeling they're just like, what about this? What about that? This is essentially paralysis analysis. Run for the hills. The best part is one of your other competitors is going to get that client. They're just going to be pulling their hair out and getting old fast. So.
All right. Effective sales tactics. Can you share a specific sales strategy or campaign that was particularly successful for your business? And what made it work so well? And this, could be any over the last,
Sure.
40 years, right?
Yeah. So you mind if I start, Peter? You good? Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We'll see
All
if we
right.
have the
I'm
same
aggressive.
answer.
I'm
We'll see if we have
aggressive.
the same
That's
answer.
right. Yeah. So I sell happiness and fear. I sell happiness and fear. What's going to make you happy, and what are you afraid of that I need to resolve for you? And so once I find those pain points, I can dive in really quick. So I always start my questions off with, like, for example, are there any issues around the house that are causing, even before I get to design, problems? Yeah, my basement leaks. Oh, that's not great. Okay, that's great to know. You realize you're going to have to probably spend like 15, 20 grand to get that result before we even touch the landscape. And then if they're fearful, like in their cheap mindset, and they don't want to fix it, run the other direction. You end up having nightmares. Now you built the deck and the house still leaks, and then they're expecting you to fix it because your sonotube caused the problem. So again, you want to have awesome customers, and you want, just like you'd have an amazing employee, you want to have an amazing customer. It's the same process. It's the exact same process.
Peter?
Good. Yeah, no, and that is a good technique. And what I was imagining was a way to find new customers. So a slightly different answer to the question, in that the technique that I think has made a big difference for us is looking at where our customers are coming from. So we measure the successful customers, we analyze those customers, we do customer surveys. We want to know where our customers are coming from. So the technique that we have developed, perhaps we started 25 years ago, is saying, who are these people, and what is it that made them choose us, and how were they satisfied, so that we can then reverse engineer that to start putting ourselves in front of those people. That was part of the reason we ended up at Canada Blooms. It's it's a big part of the brand that we put out now, is that we're looking for a specific type of customer. So we position our product in that slot, and that has really narrowed, I guess, the calls that come in. So the pre-qualifying phone calls that we get they're closer to what our ideal customer is, because we've been marketing ourselves specifically to that segment.
So Peter mentioned focus. So sort of in terms of tactics, one of our tactics is let's shrink our work area. So our more signs are visible, our trucks are all over the place. That has a huge impact. Another tactic is, let's say I know they now have a waterproofing problem. I have two choices. Either I could just give them a price on the waterproofing. Now, typically something like waterproofing, they're going to want done right away because their basement's leaking. Or I can refer somebody and make a commission, or I can subcontract it. Either way, I'm going to pivot. And if I have the time, I'll figure out a way to make money off of it. If I don't have the time, I'm either blow it off, or the client is just so horrific I wouldn't even refer it to my worst nightmare. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to take care of that customer's needs in a certain way, and hopefully I can carve a little money off of the equation.
All right. Next up, customer retention. How do you approach customer retention and relationship management to ensure repeat business and referrals in a service-based industry like landscaping?
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit in my presentation, and about following up with past clients. A year later, we have maintenance clients that we need to communicate with, regarding the construction work we do. We have construction clients that we haven't spoken to in a year or two, following up with them occasionally to just give them an update on what you're doing, any new services that you're offering. Keeping you top of mind with them will remind them that you're there, you're available, you're thinking of them. And again, having that as something that you'll do maybe at the same time of year every year. So, February and March is a great time to reintroduce yourself to past clients, to say, hey, this is what's new this year. We're here. This is what we're doing. Have a look at our Instagram or our website to see if there's anything that you're interested in, or if there's anyone that you think might be could use our service. So having that as a process is going to help you connect, because a lot of those past clients are raving fans. So, and you don't know who needs what or when. So you just got to put yourself out there regularly.
One of the things that you can do that's a phenomenal strategy is actually do time blocking. So I've been doing a lot of work with clients. It takes about 4 or 5 hours to actually time block properly, where you will actually put in your calendar one full day, and it's going to say, follow up on existing A+ clients, 30 clients. And that day, you're going to reach out to 30 clients by telephone and leave a voicemail, right? And say, hey, just checking to see how you're doing. If there's anything you need, reach out to me. Now imagine you made that a recurring appointment in your calendar every single year. If you really needed work, you might say, you know what, I'm gonna do this for 4 days. For 4 days every year, on the second Tuesday of March, I'm gonna do this. I guarantee you're gonna get work. I absolutely guarantee it, because oftentimes it requires that prompt for someone to go, you know what, yeah, I do want that done. And you're top of mind, and away we go. So if you're really good at it, you would do a phone call as well as an email with your phone number and your contact info right in front in the message. Imagine you become persistent, man, you're going to get lucky. So these things all circle back into how and when. And most of us do not get the when right. We don't program it. So it's an idea, it doesn't happen. So the time blocking, if you're working with us on the consulting side, we will dial in your time blocking and you will not miss a thing. What I do when I do time blocking, just to make you feel better, is I put family first. So your first thing that we time block is your personal time. Personal time is number one. There's no point working if you don't have personal time. And I've got some really cool techniques for doing this. My favorite clients that have been with me for a while are now moving to a place where they are wondering, like, which day should I actually come to the office? Which is kind of a cool concept. Not like, what am I doing each day and when am I doing it? It's like, which day am I working? And like, which week am I working? Am I coming to a monthly meeting? Is it a weekly meeting? Pretty wild to watch these transitions when people start dialing in their businesses.
Excellent. All right. And then finally, advice for today's market. So what advice would you give to landscape business owners looking to innovate their sales strategies in today's competitive market?
For sure, clients are going to want you to be mindful of the uncertainty. So, you know, supply chain issues may be a problem again. And like they were a few years ago, clients are going to need to know that you are advocating for them. So, you know, make sure that that's part of your presentation, that you're going to look for products perhaps that are available in Canada. If you're going to look for alternate suppliers, you're going to look for, you know, managing the timing for deliveries to your job to maximize value on delivery costs or bulk orders, or you know, getting a delivery ahead of an impending tariff. We did that this winter. We brought in a boatload of stone from the United States pre-tariffs because you know, there's a lot of uncertainty back in February. So right now, projects that we're selling for the summer, we're going to look for Canadian suppliers first. And you know, that's being mindful and respectful of your client's dollar, and making sure that you're working for them, and they have to know that you're working for them to protect their dollar.
You know, I would say do the little things right. And I think we don't say thank you enough to people. So think of all your relationships where people have helped you. And if you just call them to say thank you, I appreciate you, that means a lot, especially if it comes from the heart. It shouldn't be contrived. Thank you is the best reward at the end of a great job. Thank the client how awesome they are. Thank your supplier for how great they were to get you through something or get that delivery on time. Those are very meaningful. And I think we need to sell to the heart as well. We're not just selling hardscapes, we're selling hearts. And so it's hearts and minds. The mind is the money, the heart is the experience. Sell the experience and you will be successful.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So that brings us to the end of the Q&A. So again, if you want to see if KTC is a good fit for you, please connect with us on our Get Started link on our website. I see that a large number of you have already done that, so thank you very much. We're looking forward to chatting with you. If you did schedule a meeting with us through the link, then we'll be looking forward to meeting with you shortly. If you haven't, then we will reach out to you and we will figure out when we can chat. But again, just to go through this slide, we'll meet with you for about 15 to 20 minutes to understand your needs. You can figure out where it goes from there, whether it's the rapid 3-hour assessment workshop, it's peer groups, it's our full day focused consulting, or it's coaching. We do offer our services in many different ways, all really to meet your needs and to support your businesses. And with that, that is everything for today. So I would like to thank everybody for coming. This is our first webcast, so I'm sure that there are a lot of things that we'll do a little bit better next time. Less echoes, less artists on the call. I'd like to thank our sponsors for sponsoring this event, helping us promote it, and for joining us today to talk about their businesses. And I guess finally, in the end, I will close with a bit of a comment from one of our attendees, Andrew Mulder, who says, "It is so important to stay the course with regard to walking away from a potential problem client, no matter how little work you may have or not have booked. The peace of not dealing with a problem client will surpass the grief you will experience when trying to work with them. And thank you very much for the informative seminar." So thank you very much for that. And thank you to everybody that's joined us, and hope you can come out for the next one. So take care, have a great day, and we hope to talk with you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.